What's up, Psychedelic Investors? My name's James, and you're watching the Psychedelic Investor, your #1 news source for psychedelic stocks. Today, I'd like to welcome you to This Week in Psychedelic Stocks for the trading week ended on May 21st. As has become common recently, we'll be splitting this up into two separate parts. Today, we'll be discussing all the general news that happened over the past week that affects all the different companies in the sector equally. And then either tomorrow or the next day, we will have part 2, where we'll look at all the developments in company-specific news that have happened, and we'll bring that to you also. For today's episode, we're going to be focusing mostly on a couple depressing studies, so get yourself ready, that show the acceleration of our mental health care crisis in North America. However, to avoid you running into the hills crying, in between these depressing episodes or in between these depressing stories, we'll also have some more lighthearted stories for you. If you can manage to make it through the entire episode without running into the woods crying, well then why don't you leave us a like and subscribe to this video. It will ensure that we keep making content like this, and it will ensure that you keep seeing the content that you need to see before investing in the psychedelic medicine's landscape. Enjoy the episode. Our first story today is that a new study is showing that a single dose of psilocybin has a lasting therapeutic effect on migraine headaches. This double-blind, placebo-controlled study was published in Neurotherapeutics, and it had 10 people who suffered from frequent migraines take 2 capsules 2 weeks apart. The first was a placebo, though neither the researchers nor the patients knew that at the time, and the second capsule was a microdose of psilocybin. The researchers found that psilocybin was associated with a greater reduction in the frequency of migraines compared to placebo in the 2 weeks after capsule ingestion. Psilocybin was also associated with reductions in both headache pain severity and migraine-related functional impairments. Furthermore, there was no adverse events that happened during this study. As the author of the study, Emanuel Schindler, explains, psilocybin had a lasting effect on migraines, similar to the effect of taking a daily preventative medication, but psilocybin was only given a single time in the study. There is no other oral treatment that can do this. Furthermore, the dose in this study was a low dose, only minimally psychedelic, and people did not have to have a strong or any psychedelic experience when they took the drug to have a reduction in their migraine burden over the next couple of weeks. While this study is super positive, its small sample size and lack of different dosing levels does limit the amount that we can extrapolate from it, and it does necessitate the need for much larger studies to be conducted in the future. Nevertheless, this is a very positive development for the hypothesis that psychedelics can be used to treat both headaches and pain in general. As a reminder, MindMed is a phase 2 trial investigating the effectiveness of LSD in treating cluster headaches, which is a different but related disorder. The company also launched a program that they call Project Angie, which plans to treat pain with LSD. This study is a positive development for MindMed, and it shows that they might be on the right track here. If a microdose of a psychedelic substance like LSD or psilocybin once a week, or even less frequent, this study looked at the effects up to 2 weeks later after a microdose. If this can effectively treat pain like migraines or cluster headaches without the negative side effects of current treatments, well then these companies may be on the cutting edge of a genuine revolution in pain treatment. We're definitely going to keep an eye on this for any updates going forward, and we will bring them to you as they come. So I hope that you got all of your excitement out of the way with that first fantastic study, because it all goes downhill after here, folks. Prepare yourselves for some really depressing news. Our next story for the day is a study that shows massive increases in depression across North America. The company Field Trip, who we actually talk about on this channel all the time, recently commissioned 2 different studies, one in Canada and one in the United States, to measure the levels of depression in North America. The results, they're not pretty. In both countries, more than 80% of people showed at least one symptom of depression. In the United States, nearly 50% of people reported symptoms of mild to severe depression. Half the population reporting symptoms of mild to severe depression. Even worse, 24% of people, 1 in 4 people almost, reported that in the 2 weeks prior to filling out the survey, they had thought that they would be better off dead, or they thought of injuring themselves. These are insane, terrifying numbers. 1 in 4 people considered hurting themselves or even suicide. This is a sign of a sick society. And you know what, guys? Canada, we're no better. More than half of Canadians felt down, depressed, or hopeless, and they felt little interest or pleasure in doing things, while nearly 3/4 felt tired or had little injury. And like the United States, 23% of people, again, almost a quarter, felt that they would be better off dead or thought of injuring themselves. Both countries reported increased negative coping mechanisms like abuse of alcohol or drugs and increased gambling. Again, it is clear that these are not signs of a healthy society, and there are no clear solutions. Obviously, I would like to believe that psychedelic therapies could be a silver bullet here, but that's just not a realistic case. When a quarter of our society is actively considering self-harm, perhaps we need some more radical solutions. And one of those radical solutions can be psychedelic enhanced therapy. But beyond that, I don't really know what else to say. What is becoming ever more clear is that we may be entering a full-blown mental health care crisis here, and we need solutions. As an investor, I do try to invest in solutions to the largest problems that our planet faces, which is why I'm so excited about the potential for psychedelic medicines. But these numbers make me scared. And honestly, I don't really know what else I can say about them. Unfortunately, these horrible, depressing mental health care news updates, they continue. And that's because we have news that opioid overdose deaths in Ontario, which is a Canadian province, are up by 75% since the beginning of COVID. And while this study just looks at Ontario, as we've covered in the past on this channel, these trends are similar all across North America. The majority of these deaths were found in younger people, or at least those under the age of 44, which makes it arguably ever the more depressing and tragic, and the majority of these people were also unemployed. Again, it's crystal clear that we have a societal illness poisoning us right now, and unfortunately there's no obvious solution. Hopefully companies such as MindMed, Numinous, and Midocin, which are all working on addiction, can find solutions to these problems. But they're all so complex, these issues. And these studies, I find them extremely depressing, and honestly, guys, I don't want to spend too much time talking about them because I'm getting depressed just talking about it, and frankly, I'm getting scared. But it's important for us investors in the psychedelic medicines landscape to know that the problems that we are trying to fix are growing at a scary pace. And if this growth continues unabated, these crises, they could become existential. I will again be clear that I am not arguing that psychedelic medicines are going to be a silver bullet here, because they're not. Yes, of everything that I have seen so far, they do seem to be the most promising, practical route for easing these crises. And that's why I'm investing in these companies. I invest in companies tackling the largest societal issues that we face. And these companies seem like they have a real plan of action and a solid chance to succeed. But these problems are rooted deep in our society, and no drug is going to solve that. Like I've been saying, guys, this terrifies me. And I want to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments if these studies are as scary to you as they are to me. I really want to hear your opinions on this. Moving on to something that is perhaps not as terrifying and doesn't make you want to run out into the woods and start crying. And probably, honestly, only half of you are still watching. Probably a quarter of you turned the video off already, and the other quarter went into the into your shower to have a mental breakdown. But for the last 50% of people who are still with me here, congratulations, we made it through all the depressing stuff. Our next story of the day is the FDA has greenlit a ketamine study for Parkinson's disease. So Specifically, the company running the test, a group called PharmaTher Holdings, they want to treat the side effect that current treatments of Parkinson's, which aim only to slow the progression of the disease, cause. Apparently, as many as 50 to 80% of Parkinson's patients treated long-term with levodopa, which is not a Harry Potter spell, but rather is the main treatment drug for Parkinson's, will develop a movement disorder known as LID. And LID causes involuntary and uncontrollable movements other than the tremors typical of Parkinson's. Apparently, previous studies have shown that PD patients, or Parkinson's patients, who have received low doses of ketamine for pain relief also experienced improvements in LID symptoms that lasted several weeks after the treatment. Ketamine may also have additional benefits in the treatment of pain and depression, which are frequent comorbidities of Parkinson's disease. And PharmaTher is currently recruiting 36 participants to take place in this phase 2 trial, which will probably start next year. And the reason I just wanted to highlight this trial to you guys isn't necessarily because I think it will work. I have zero idea if you can use ketamine to treat this side effect of the current treatment of Parkinson's, but I wanted to share it with you because we're seeing rapidly that psychedelics are being tested against basically every malady under the sun. Every week we get news that substance X is going to be tested against, malady Y, and not just in the mental health care sector as we're seeing here, but across healthcare. And honestly, guys, I expect most of these trials are going to fail. I can't imagine that psychedelics can be used to treat all these different range of different healthcare issues, but who knows? Maybe in our future, healthcare will consist of taking a monthly psychedelic to keep our bodies and minds healthy. Crazier hypotheses have been put forward. Again, I don't think that's the case. I just wanted to share this with you because of the rate of that we're seeing all these new trials make it to clinical stage trials. It's just really exciting to see all these new trials happening. Moving on, our final story today, we'll be taking a look at the California bill to decriminalize psychedelics, which we have talked about so frequently on this channel. And the news today is that they have finally passed through their 1,012,000 Senate committees that they needed to get to. And this bill will now be going to the Senate floor, and I will expect it to pass. If it does, it will then head to the Assembly, and it has to pass there, and then finally it will go to the governor's desk for his signature. As a reminder, if enacted, this bill will remove criminal penalties for the possession or sharing numerous psychedelics, including psilocybin, mushrooms, DMT, ibogaine, LSD, and MDMA, for adults 21 years old and older. The bill also used to include a provision to wipe people's records for those who committed a crime, which this bill will now make legal. But apparently, in the negotiations phase, for some reason, even though the Democrats have a supermajority, this has been taken out. And I think this is a huge step in the wrong direction, but nevertheless, I am still rooting for this bill to pass in the form that it is currently in. California is the largest state in the union, so decriminalization of psychedelics would have massive implications, not only for people no longer going to jail, but also for healthcare, and even for us investors in the psychedelic medicines landscape. Hopefully, this will cause a chain reaction to other states and even other countries. So, good on California, hurry up and get this damn bill passed. That's all for today, guys. Like I said, let me know in the comments if you guys are as terrified about these mental health developments as I am, and make sure you like and subscribe on the channel to keep bringing you the news that you guys need to see. This is James from the Psychedelic Investor, signing out. I love you guys all, and I'll see you next time.